back to the next episode of Just Advisor Things. We are joined today with Alyssa Boehringer, who has had a really exciting career and recent career change. And so I'm excited to chat about what she does now. And so before we get started with that, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into teaching, advising, and then kind of what you do now?
Yeah, I definitely started advising journalism right out of college because my high school journalism advisor, Lori Oglesby, was amazing and, took us to conventions. We competed. Um, you know, Winning felt really good. Having a little family at school felt amazing. Having a place to be, a home base in high school was amazing. And so I went to the University of Texas after being yearbook editor at McKinney High, and I started working as an intern at UIL, working for Bobby Hawthorne and Randy Vonderheide. The Student Press Association is housed at UIL. So we were, helping send out yearbook critiques and processing awards, and we had a convention every April. So I did that for 4 years, and then I went straight back to McKinney High School.
I love that.
And got to teach journalism for 16 years at my alma mater, which was amazing.
That's so cool. I actually didn't realize that you went back to your own high school. That's awesome.
Yes, I went from McKinney High to UT, back to McKinney High, and now I'm back at UT.
That's so funny. And then you'll probably go back someday, you know?
Yeah, maybe I'll be in McKinney High one day. Who knows?
Yeah. Okay, so tell us what you do now.
So right now I am the director of UIL journalism at ILPC, which is the Student Press Association for Texas. Those are kind of the two hats I wear. And, for viewers who aren't in Texas, UIL is the basically scholastic competition nucleus for Texas. So they do everything from athletics. They run our high school football championships, basketball, every sport. And we have a slew of academic competitions as well. There are 5 journalism contests: news writing, feature writing, editorial writing, headline writing, and copy editing. And I, write and facilitate those contests on multiple levels throughout the year. It's a lot of fun.
That is so cool. You're so good at it. So it's so exciting to see you be in charge of all of that because when I was in high school, I did a little bit of the competition. And then when I became a teacher, one of the head UIL coordinator at my school was like, so you're going to do journalism UIL too? And I was like, I thought it was just part of the job. And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. Didn't really realize what I was all signing up for because it's a lot of work coaching those kiddos, but man, winning is fun. You're right. So it's a great organization to get involved in.
It does feel good. And even when you don't win, there's the experience of, being at a UIL meet with your team and,
progressing, even just getting,
getting better. The best practice for UIL journalism is having a strong yearbook and newspaper and doing real journalism.
For sure.
So it all goes together.
Yeah. So I think a lot of times my audience is primarily brand new advisors. Like I have some that are experienced too, but primarily people find organized advisor when they're like frantically Googling late at night and like need help. And so I always recommend like JEA, UIL, get the resources out. Like here's where you go. But I think a lot of people, when they look at UIL or competitions, they're really intimidated. They're like, oh, I'm not ready for that, or I can't.
We're not ready for that.
Never win. Yeah. So what do you recommend that or how can UIL help like a brand new advisor?
So no matter what state you're in, you probably have a state press association or regional press association, or maybe it's a state JEA, or even if you're looking at getting involved in national JEA, which is Journalism Education Association. Google that real quick if you haven't done that. Getting involved in competitions is important, not just to win for yourself. Okay. It does a number of things. Number one, it gives you feedback. Are we doing this right? Should we be doing things differently? What goals do we need to set for next year? So one of the things that we do at ILPC on the state level and organizations like CSPA and NSPA do on the national level, is offer a critique service for publications. And that's really one of the most important things we do, because I know when I was an advisor, I would get my ILPC critique and my editors, and I would go through that line by line and set goals. We are doing this year. This is a great idea, because those judges will give you specific things that you need to work on. They will circle things in your book and say, you should be doing this. And it helps to have someone go through your yearbook and not just say, oh, it's beautiful, great job, pat on the back. That feels really good. And judges will do that too. But you need that tangible feedback to give you ideas of things to work on. So that outside feedback from someone other than the advisor is really important for the kids, because as an advisor, you say that over and over and over again, but it always takes that outside person to go, you need to be doing this. The other thing it does is it's a recruiting tool. When a kid experiences winning something for the first time, they get buy-in into your program that, this is something that could be kind of cool, that could be kind of special, that I could be good at this. And they're going to buy in to your class and your program. Okay. And that is so incredibly powerful. As journalism advisors, we're competing with, all this slew of engineering stuff and robotics and these theater and band and all these other programs that are really, really cool. So it's really important to have that little piece like, hey, this is going to be a pretty cool resume builder. Something that you can take with you for the rest of your life and say, I did this. And even if you don't win a medal, I tell advisors, you should make a certificate that says, hey, I chose your story to enter into this contest because it was the top one from our school.
Yeah.
And that's such a huge motivator for kids. They love that. So building that resume is really important. Let's see what else.
Well, I think one of the I have a couple questions that I get asked all the time. And one of them is, how do I motivate kids, and how do I recruit other kids? And you just hit both of those, I think, really on the nail, because getting kids to buy into the program is intrinsic motivation. They want the yearbook to be better. They want their newspaper to be better. And when they feel part of the team and they feel like they're contributing, that's just going to be a natural consequence of being there.
Yeah. And there's joining and participating. And then I'm going to stay after school and make this the best thing anyone has ever seen. And I think even competing and losing can give you that drive, or I like to say non-winning. Competing and not winning can give you that drive to move forward and push yourself and push your kids. So I find that really helpful. I also think it's really important, and this is something that advisors don't do enough, but you need to let your community know that you know what you're doing. You should shout every award that you get from the rooftops. This is something that my advisor, Lori Oglesby, started, but every competition we did at McKinney, which was a lot, we would write the kid's name, and we use little paper trophies, or I use just little, I would go to the teacher store and get little cute pieces of paper. I would hang them in the room or in the hall, in a place where every single person who walked by my room could see what awards we were winning. And by February, March, that wall was pretty filled up, where people would come in and go, holy crap, what is that for? And, kids see that and they go, well, I want to do that. So you got to promote yourself on social media to recruit for your program. Sell yearbooks. People will say, oh, this is actually a good, this is not just, they're not playing around. This is a good yearbook. And you got to promote yourself. Tell people you know what you're doing.
Exactly. Yeah. That's great. I think that a lot of times, I know when I was a new advisor and I was just thrown into UIL or even just competitions in general, I was really oh, what are we doing here? I don't know what I'm doing, let alone the kids, that I'm trying to teach. But it was really such a good way to also network with other advisors and other programs and learn from each other. And like at regional competitions, we would, the teachers are usually the judges of the entries. And so I learned so much about like how to grade even through doing contests like UIL. So,
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's how I learned how to do it, by
mhm,
judging with experienced judges and watching what they do. And that's how I learned how to coach
yeah.
others. Absolutely.
And you would get to meet the best people. Like, I feel like I always brag on the journalism teacher community because I'm like, it's the best. It's so generous. Like, of course, like everyone's different and stuff, but like when you get involved and you get to know people, like it's such a great community to be a part of. And then you want to keep doing it. So,
That's really that's really why conventions are so important. And, conventions specifically are why I'm here, why I started teaching journalism,
mhm,
because I just had so much fun as a student
mhm,
traveling with my yearbook staff. Um, and that ability to network with other people who are going through what you're going through is so powerful. My husband was an AP physics teacher, and just not only, I mean, he loves physics, so that's good for him. But just sort of being isolated in, your space in your area. But there is a nationwide network of journalism teachers, and we know each other. And if you're new, you get pulled into this orbit
mhm,
and just become one of us. And it's so helpful, if you are just starting out, just to have that and know you're not alone and be able to reach out to people. Teaching anything is not easy.
mhm.
And we hear this over and over. But there is something really special about advising journalism. And I just think that's why.
I agree. I mean, I feel like the Facebook groups have done a lot to kind of bring people together, but those conventions, there's just nothing like an in-person connection of people that totally understand what you do. Like I can go home and I relate really a lot because my husband's a geometry teacher, so similar like the creative brain and then like logic brain, but the you can tell your husband at home like, oh, I had this day, I had this deadline, this kid did this, designed this spread, and they you know, feel for you, but they don't get it like another journalism teacher does. And so definitely, I think that that's a good thing.
Sorry,
If
my
you
phone.
can't make it to the national contests or conventions, like definitely go to the state level, you guys have a couple of events throughout the year. What are they? At least for our viewers in Texas.
Hold on, I'm sorry, my phone's ringing.
Oh, it's okay.
It normally like sends it to voicemail by now, so that's really weird. Yeah.
It's like I really need to contact you.
Okay. Sorry.
No
Um,
worries.
yeah, so all right, so events we have throughout the year. So in the fall, we're kind of busy all year. In the fall, we do student activity conferences where the other UIL academic directors will travel to sort of the corners of Texas and teach the UIL contests and kind of workshop with students about how to be successful in the UIL contests, those 5 contests I mentioned. So like this year we went to Odessa and up in Prosper and Corpus Christi, and then we always have one here at the University of Texas in Austin. So it's kind of fun to get to, travel to places
Mhm.
that, at least this is my second year doing this. Like I'd never been to Odessa. So it was like just fun to get to meet with those coaches and advisors and work with them a little bit. So that's one of the things we do in the fall. We just finished a big virtual contest, Centex, which you may have heard or seen on social media. So we're sending those results out now. We had about 3,400 entries, which was amazing. Texas has the teacher organization is TAJE, so we had Fall Fiesta in October. So that's our fall convention. And so my next thing is to prepare for the UIL academic season, which will start our first invitational meet when we come back from winter break. Invitational A will be in January. Invitational B in February. Our district meets will be the first week of April this year, and regionals at the end of April, and then we'll have our state meet in May. In April, ILPC has our spring convention. So I'm super excited about that. Right now, we are planning to sort of have a podcast focus. So if you're into podcasting or want to learn about podcasting, come see us April, I think it's 19th through 21st. I should have that in front of me. And come to the University of Texas and go to ILPC. We also do a summer workshop, which will be in June, and I'm super excited. That will be at Texas State University in San Marcos this year for the first time.
Yeah,
So
cool.
yeah, just like wheels are just constantly
You're a
turning.
busy lady. That's a lot, right? Back to back to back.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, this is like what I love to do the most. So yeah,
For
love my
sure.
job so far.
Oh, I love to hear that. Okay, so again, talking about like the importance of, entering these contests and doing these, regional meets, even just for the experience and the invitationals, even just getting some exposure to that. I'm sure, I experienced that it benefits the publications like incredibly. Like the quality of the publication goes like through the roof because they start to care more. In your experience, like what has been the impact of programs that do invest in either getting involved with the IOPC or doing the contest, that kind of stuff?
Well, on the UIL side, UIL prompts, which we have some available online, that is how I taught my journalism one students how to write.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of journalism teachers outside Texas who are like, can I get some of those UIL
Mm-hmm.
prompts?
I've had a lot of requests and I'm like, go ask Alyssa. Yeah.
It's just a way to have the students exercise news judgment and journalistic writing techniques without the fear and anxiety that comes with worrying about the interview. The
Mm-hmm.
interview is incredibly important, and that piece needs to hit later. But to be able to practice those skills without that is super powerful. So when they get to the point where they're ready to interview and tell someone's real story, they have those skills to listen, what's going to be my lead, and they can go through that during the interview and come out of an interview, hopefully with a lot of material ready to write an amazing story. On the ILPC side, a critique service, I think I said this before, the critique service is really the most important thing that we do in terms of being able to set goals for the next year. We also offer individual contests. So like advisors can enter their students' individual work for IAAs, which are individual achievement awards. And I think that's super powerful too. That's where you can say, we get to enter 2 stories from our book. Yours is one of them. So congratulations.
Mm-hmm.
And they can put that on their resume just right there. The other thing that's really cool that we offer here in Texas is through UIL competition and through ILPC competition or national competition or really any other journalistic competition, students are eligible for the all-state journalism staff. So there's a little menu on the UIL website with how many points each contest is worth. And if students get 50 points, then they get that distinction of being on the all-state journalism staff. And they can get points for things like attending a workshop
Mm-hmm.
or participating in an invitational meet. So they don't have to be big winners to get the points. So yeah, those things are huge for building resumes. And like I said, that buy-in to get really committed to your program.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like there are so many resources out there that are, I mean, I think they're well taken advantage of, but for a new advisor, that's just like invaluable. Like those UIL lessons about even just the basics, like breaking it down into headline writing, feature writing, editorial, like that's me too. That's how I taught J1. And then that fed into obviously yearbook and newspaper. And it was just so helpful to have that. Like you said, the interview's already done, it's already there, and then they have to figure out what to quote in what order. And it's such a step-by-step process, you know. So they're so helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, so what else about like what else does the competition scene or the convention scene or workshops, how do they help an advisor as they're learning? You know, is there anything else that we missed that we haven't chatted about yet?
Well, I think there's really something special about like, the first time I saw the Grand Canyon was with my students.
That's awesome.
It is awesome. Um, I think small things like getting to take kids on their first trip on an airplane
Mm-hmm.
and showing them how to navigate the world for the first time. It's really special to do that with a group like a yearbook staff or newspaper staff, broadcast staff, because y'all are going through things together every day, those
Mm-hmm.
stressors. So you bond, you get really close. Um, and conventions are a really huge part of that. So I
Mm-hmm.
really encourage new advisors. I think I'm gonna make myself sound really old. That's fine. I'm really old. That's
No, you're
fine.
not.
Um, but I see a lot of new advisors are really hesitant to give up their weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And I totally get that. Like your time should be respected. But I really encourage you for your own happiness. And if this is a career that you want to fall in love with, um, give it a try. Give a weekend, go to a state convention and see what it's like. It's not just the competition, but it's the exposure to professional media. Kids can get exposed to new careers that they may not have thought of. Um, it's like you leave a convention, state or national convention, just reinvigorated, recommitted to teaching journalism and excited to try new ideas. And I don't know if the algebra teachers out there are getting that.
Right.
So I think it's a good way to prevent that burnout that we hear so much about, is to join us at a convention and participate.
Yeah, that's a good point. I love that. That burnout it's gonna come from other reasons maybe, but
Yeah,
the
I'm not saying you're not gonna get burnt
yeah,
out.
but having that
It'll
community
come.
is everything for sure. And it keeps you excited and want to keep doing it for sure. Okay, you brought up kind of another point that I think is interesting to talk about. Traveling with students. What advice do you have for that? Because I think that's also, I was a very young new teacher, and the thought of being responsible for 22 little, teenagers that could definitely outnumber me. What advice do you have for traveling with students, either locally or nationally?
Yeah, so one of the things that was really important to me when I started was just how do I reach the new advisors that I don't even know are out
Mhm.
there. So I, with the help of some other advisors, kind of put together a convention planning guide, and it's not like there are better resources out there. Whoops. There are better resources out there, but it's kind of a step by step. Here's what you should do first. Here's what you should do next. So that's a really helpful thing if anyone wants to check that out. And I think it would work for any, like it's not specific to our conventions, would work for
Mhm.
anything. I think communicating with parents is probably the most important step. Um, I let kids know in the spring, here's where we're going next year. So when you go to work this summer, you want to put aside a little bit of money. I went to a very economically diverse school and never had a hard time. Like kids would plan, we're going to New York City next year. I'm
Mhm.
saving my money now. And they would be ready to do that because I always make kids pay at least
Mhm.
part of the trip expense. So communicating with parents way ahead of time so they know that it's coming. Collect a deposit,
Mhm.
because It always happens where a kid tries to drop out. You've already bought their plane ticket. So
Hmm.
don't let that happen. Make them sign a contract and put down a non-refundable deposit. And there's just some tips like that in that little guide. Communication is super important. Um, Set an itinerary. You need to plan fun things to do after the convention. Keep the kids out late and make them really tired.
Make them really tired so they have no other choice but to just
Tired
black
as
out and go to
possible.
sleep.
That's right. When you get back to the hotel, they want to go to sleep and nothing else. And that's when you make your memories too. So, I mean,
Hmm.
that was never a tough thing to do. If you're in a city where there's nothing to do, we used to, even when there was something to do, we used to do, we would call it $5 Friday. And if you go to a place where there's shopping, we would have the kids buy something. They can either work in groups or individually buy something for $5 and bring it back. And then we would choose whoever bought the coolest thing.
That's awesome. I love that.
Really stupid, but I don't know. I got some cool stuff with that, like this flying.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And and I don't want to make them give it to me, but sometimes they would. I got this cool coaster. We built the city on sausage rolls, which was a reference to a lip dub we did once upon a time. We built the city. Okay. But yeah, so just there's ways to come up with fun junk to do.
Yeah, I would do like minute to win it games. Sometimes at like yearbook camp, like we would have late at night, the night before the last day, the project's done, and they're like so bored and start messing with each other. And so I would do like minute to win it games, which was so fun. Very
Yeah,
disruptive in the lobby, but it is what it is. So
it could be worse. Yeah.
yeah, I'd rather that than them like causing ruckus out there. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's
absolutely.
awesome. That's very good advice. I will definitely find the guide you mentioned and I'll link to it down below because I think that would be really helpful. Because I get a lot of questions about that. Like I'm so terrified to take kids on a trip. And I think part of it is also take an administrator, like, that sometimes is required, but take at least another chaperone or something that so you're not really truly alone because kids can be kids and that something does inevitably go wrong. Kids sneak out or they do something crazy. Have you ever had an instance where you had something, bad happen on a trip and you had to, how do you manage that?
If I can't think of a time where we had disaster strike
That's
too
good.
bad.
That's good.
If something happened, I was never told about it. So let's just
Mm.
leave it at that.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
But
Yeah.
stuff does happen. I mean, I remember we were caught in New York in a snowstorm, stuff like
Mm.
that. You just kind of have to roll with the punches.
Yeah.
If you need to go to the emergency room, you need to go to the emergency room. I mean,
Yeah. But
that
don't
comes,
panic. Just
don't
one thing at a
panic.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. The worst thing I would ever, I actually didn't have this personally experience it, but the best advice given to me about traveling with kids is just make sure that they're aware of what the consequences are. So if they get caught doing something stupid, they're going home, even if it's at their own expense or whatever. Like that's why you
Middle
also
of the
have
night,
another
you're
adult
going to
with
the
you.
airport. Yeah, your mom's coming to pick you up or not.
Hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and when kids turn in their deposit, they have to sign a contract that says, XYZ. Um, and I think it includes, you'll lose a leadership position on staff. You'll never
Hmm.
get a letter of recommendation from me
Hmm.
and stuff like that. So yeah,
Yeah. And then
but
usually in my experience, they are pretty good after that. And you know which kids to look out for too, because you have them in your class every day. So
yeah, I normally find a way to convince those kids that maybe this trip isn't going to be the most fun for them as they think it might.
hmm.
But yeah, we never had any huge problems
That's good.
that
I
I
think
know
that
of.
also speaks to the relationships that you develop with them. Like they respect you and they don't want to, ruin that relationship either.
Yeah. And start small. Take two or three. You don't need to
Mhm.
start by taking 48 kids to New York City.
Yeah.
And we did that. It was not, I don't recommend that as your first
No.
foray into convention conventions with kids.
Yeah. One car, drive
Yeah.
there, like
Yeah.
local, and then work your way up to like national stuff. And
Yeah.
also something that I always do advise, and I hear this a lot, is if you're going to like a JEA national convention or even a state one, try to go by yourself first. Like get the lay of the land and like learn, especially if you're a brand new advisor, and like don't worry, I have to worry about kids. And then the next year you'll know kind of like the flow, the rhythm, and then it's a lot easier to bring kids too.
Yeah, I think that's a good tip. I know their JA is planning their 100th birthday celebration in Kansas City in April. Unfortunately, I can't be there, which I'm super sad because it's
Oh,
the same week as UIL District, which is
mm.
not only the case, but you know, I'll be answering the phones like a radio DJ or something.
Yeah, sometimes those
That's
dates
all my
do
time.
overlap, or like contest dates where you have to submit things overlap, and that can be a little stressful, but it's still worth it, I think, to if and the more organized you can be with it, have the kids pull those contest entries
I was
and
about to
prep
say, put a
them.
kid, have a contest editor
Mm-hmm.
or a contest manager.
Mm-hmm.
Have them do all the contest stuff for you.
Yeah, all you have to do is hit submit, and then it's easy.
Yeah.
So cool. Okay, well, my last question is pretty straightforward and it's not actually super related to contests or conventions, but when it comes to just advising in general, you did it for a very long time, very successfully. What advice would you give to a brand new advisor who is just overwhelmed, got either thrown into this or is just brand new, and it's how to survive or how to like thrive maybe and how to really enjoy what they do?
My biggest advice is to don't get bogged down in the school paperwork and the little minutia, the forms that they're going to make you fill out. I see so many questions on um, Facebook or whatever about grading and what am I going to do for my final? And, you know, sometimes you just need to have a paper airplane contest or have bagel Fridays and play board games instead of whatever you were planning.
Heck yeah, I love
Um,
that.
Don't get to, I mean, even if you're gunning to be the top yearbook in the entire universe, and you take it really seriously, it's really important to stop and have fun with your students. So don't
Mhm.
forget to do that.
Yeah, I love that. I think Lori is like instilled that. Like Lori was speaking at one of the very first conventions that I ever went to, and I was like, "Who is this lady?" She's like hilarious and so funny. So I feel like she like laid that foundation probably for you with your staff, and then you carried it on. So I love
I
that.
hope so. I hope so. She was a really good example. And you know, an amazing person to have as an advisor and then a colleague. So,
Hmm. I need to
um,
get her on here. I need to have her. She'd
good.
be hilarious to
She's
interview.
got a
Yeah,
lot to say. Yeah, but have fun.
yeah, that's great advice. Have fun. It's so fun. It doesn't have to be stressful all the time. So
No, it doesn't.
yeah, very cool. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us and share all the information about contests and conventions. I mean, you guys at UIL and ILPC do so much, and TAJE also, and JEA, all of the organizations. There's such wonderful people behind them making them run and put all this great resources out for journalism advisors. And I think a lot of times when you're brand new, it's really hard to know where to go first. But I always recommend start with your local organization at the state level because they're closest to you. And then, obviously do branch out to the national stuff, but you guys provide such valuable resources to students and advisors, even outside of Texas. So thank you so
Yeah,
much for what you guys do.
absolutely. You know, I always tell advisors like my job is just to help advisors and students. So if anybody has any questions or wants to talk something through, I'm here. I'll give you my cell phone number. Reach out.
Good. I love it. And you're so helpful and so like generous with your time, resources, energy, everything. So cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing everything. I really appreciate you being on and chatting with us today. You guys we'll be back next week. Join us for on Monday for another episode of Just Advisor Things. We'll see you there. Bye.